This is Editing Weaver, and letting you know that I talk about some really heavy stuff in this episode. If you are uncomfortable with thoughts of suicidal ideation or self-harm, this is probably not the episode for you. I do talk about grief a lot and death, and yes, so if you want to come back for that, it's okay to skip this one and come back later. Hey besties. Oh, 3 days double something. Welcome to my channel. This is the Weaver. This is a regular vlog. I don't really have much to talk about. Just thought I would do a little update. So realizing that I left System Analysis app a blog about craft stuff. So I'm an author, right? I write about authors, and there are the two different audiences. So there's me talking to authors about author stuff like marketing and prose and comp author stuff. I don't know if I like this angle here that well. Next week's Memorial Day. And then there's the readers. So this is kind of like a bit of both. Next week's Memorial Day, so I'll leave it this way. Had it flipped. So, talk about one of the themes of my book. So in book 2 of Caravan of Blades, they meet Valerie. Valerie is a dwarf, and because of her magic, she is still alive when basically the rest of the countryside of her entire kingdom gets zombified. And spoilers, because this isn't spelled out in the series, but people above a certain level, threshold of magic, they don't become zombies, but the zombies can still eat them and turn them. So they're caught unawares. She was not part of that. So she basically, she's in a military academy, and then they find her in the basement of her parents' house after she locks herself in there. And both of her parents are professors at this dwarven military academy. She's a dwarf. She's like the last female living. She's like the last living dwarf that they meet. Because most of book 1 is about them getting away from the problem, which is big cities and zombies, and trying to figure out what they want to do. And they're like, we need to get an airship. So then in the second book, they're like, okay, in order for us to get to the airship, we have to cross this whole continent, pass through 2 kingdoms, which may or may not all be made of zombies. They acquired 2 orcs that were not turned because of this magic thing, which again isn't explicitly spelled out. And then when they meet her, she's like at her lowest point, right? So in my mind, I'm like, okay, so Valerie is a dwarf who, she lives according to the code. Her mother is if you watched Fourth Wing, like the mom is a general, the dad is a librarian, like that's that kind of setup. Which also means like that they've been at the academy for a while, right? Full disclosure, I went to OCS, did not go to West Point, although I worked at West Point one summer. And I used to love doing breakneck ridge, so I'm familiar with military academies. So if you station there for a while, like you probably like have your friends. But so what I did is I said, okay, the academy's here. This is where the legions train. This is where they train future officers of the Dwarven Legion of the Kingdom of Arumi. And she's like 15, 16 when the series starts. So I said, okay, she's basically going to have locked herself in there. She'll be drinking. She'll be near death because they're going to find her a couple weeks after the thing has ended. She'll be so scared because like her parents are going to like zombify it, but before they do that, they're going to pass on their magic to her, and they're going to kick her in the thing. They're going to be like, hide in here, do not make a sound. So basically, I have a character, Bob, who gets quests. I think is what happened is that Bob got a quest to save her, and then the quest kind of pathfinds him to where he is. Because that's his overpowered power. And she starts off as like a kind of a side character and the adjutant for the group. So this is like this series is like a military campaign, and it's like a long military campaign overland where they're trying to get to the other side of the continent. And then in the fourth book, it's we kind of turn it into all right, now we have to see what we can do to save the continent. Great series, I love it. Spent a lot of time thinking about how she would start, and then so her character arc is that she's really sad and depressed, and they talk about dark stuff like behavioral stuff, psychology stuff with her, because there's a couple of people there that are in the healthcare field that got isekai'd, and they spend this time trying to get her back on her feet. And then because of her, they know where the Dwarven Legion is, because it's a Dwarven Foreign Legion that just like goes abroad and like takes quests, right? And it's a way for the dwarves to export their kind of democracy or their monarchy, their diplomacy. So she's like, I know where that is. So like, we were trying to get out of here, but now we have an idea where we want to go. And in order for us to take back the continent of Novaria, we're going to need a legion. So we can get that. And so I thought about grief when I did this character, and I thought about like how you would deal with it if you were the last person of your line. And I try to make it as realistic as possible, because like she doesn't want to do this. She's spent like 3 weeks drinking herself half to death. She never thought she was going to make it. So there was a battle during World War II, I think it's called Iwo Jima, where the Marines were fighting for days and nights, and at the very end, when the fighting was done and they were going to go climb up on the boats to escape, the Marines were just like, they just like lost it. They just like, they couldn't do it. Like you go through this trial of life, right? And that's kind of what I want to encompass. You go through this trial and you come out and you're just like, I never expected to live, right? And that's kind of what I wanted to do with that character, right? Because she might start off as an adjutant, kind of like she knows how to like be in a company in a military unit, but like then they start to say like, okay, well, you're the last dwarf, so F lineage, you're gonna be the queen now, right? We're gonna you are the person for all intents and purposes, right? There might be another 1,000 dwarves out there from your country overseas and the camp followers, but like you're it. And I'm sorry, you're 16, right? So I might do, if I do a follow-on series for this series, it will be following her rebuilding the kingdom, or like a victory tour lap thing, like in Freerun, or Station 11. But like I've thought about that because somebody died this week, and I was thinking about how I would have wanted to be remembered, right? And I'm like, so listen, I've done this thing. I've folded enough American flags and handed them to service members, for in remembrance of their service. These are service members that passed later on, like after they retired. Like I thought about that and thinking about how legacy is and how much weight I could put on the person, right? Like if I died, I want people to celebrate and have a party. I want all my friends to come together and hang out. Like you might not feel that, and that's something that you maybe have never thought about. Like my dad's like, take the money and have a party. I'm like, okay, if that's what you want. But like, think about how a character would approach that. And I know this is going to get very heavy, so I have to put a little trigger warning at the beginning here. But that's what's on my mind lately. Because I'm going to start editing book 2 now. Like, I finished the edits for book 1. I just needed to get formatted, and it'll be out to Kickstarter. But like, book 2 is when it starts to get heavy, right? Like, I got a review that it was like horny transmigrators, like more interested in each other than in actually the mission. But yeah. Got cut off there because I went into dad mode, and then time got ahead of me. So yeah, so I'm thinking a lot about how I would write this process, and now that I'm fully done with my edits, maybe my line editor might send something back at me with book 1, and I'm looking at the dev edits for book 2. I'm like, oh man, more people gotta die. I was too nice, and now I'm paying for it. So that's what's up. Think about how, so like, when I did sociology, I remember they're like, hey, every culture has like a death ritual. So think about how in your book you could use a death ritual to kind of explain the culture, right? Like, this is how they honor their dead, or this is what they do with their dead. Do they burn the bodies? Do they bury them? Do they cremate them? I don't know. That's a thing you should think about. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this. This became more of a talk about book 2 and the Valerie storyline than anything else. So I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for listening, and I'll do another vlog.